I said it already, but I am really thankful that everyone took the time to drive all the way up here to New Hampshire. Um, I know that that was a long ride for many of you, but I think the time that we get together will be really kind of special. So let me just give you an idea of what we're going to do. What we're going to have is Jared's brothers are going to talk for a minute, and Rowan is going to share a little. We put together a video of many of Jared's friends and people that were close to him, and so we're going to show that. I'd like to just share something with you guys, and then we're going to close with a little kind of a musical video of a bunch of pictures. So there are tissues in there, and I know I came here and I saw it for myself, and that was a little bit more than I was expecting. But it was all good. So again, I'm really thankful that you're here, and I'm going to ask Rowan if she'd just come at this point. I thought I'd make her go first.
Dear Jared, this is my final farewell for now. A day to bring your short but full life to light. I know we will meet again, but for now, here's what I would like to say to you. I'm sorry for what happened to you. The fact that I didn't get to give you a last kiss or say goodbye and I love you. The last day we spent together was beautiful. We got to see a breathtaking part of Oregon. My favorite part of the day was relaxing in a hammock with you, surrounded by nature and blissful peace, laying in each other's arms. It's moments like those when you truly understand how much you love another person. The silence is filled with knowing how comfortable you are around each other and how lucky you feel to have found true love. I hold nothing but great memories of you. You're a pain in my butt. But I wouldn't trade you for the world. What an adventure my life has been with you so far. You are one of the most compassionate people I know. If I can be as a good of a friend as you were, Jared, I know I will be living life right. I am blessed to have gained such a wonderful family through you. Your parents have shown me nothing but love and supported me through one of the hardest times in their life. It's amazing to see how much you love and cherish your family. The stories you would share with me only help me understand the life you lived before me and how it shaped you as such a strong person. I am so grateful to have known and loved your brothers. Each of them have made me feel like a sister and continue to support me now that you're gone. I hate that today couldn't bring all of the people that mean so much to you together. I'm sure we will be sitting in a church full of hundreds. Your friends in Aspen, San Diego, Minneapolis, Oregon, and New Hampshire. The list goes on. Your friendships reflect you, happy and caring and willing to lend an ear in the good times and bad. I would like to say thank you from the bottom of my heart to the search and rescue team who looked for you relentlessly. For every message, card, comment, and meal that was given to me, to a GoFundMe that was created to help me with my life in such an unknowing time, to my friends and family who have looked after me through this. It's you who helped me see the light in such a dark place. Jared, you are no longer here to tell me, calm down, Govey. But when I see your family and friends that I've gained from you, I'll never feel alone. I will pray to find strength in the Lord and pray that everyone will do the same. I know you're in a better place and you're looking down on us today, hoping we find happiness in celebrating you. I miss you every day. I am so proud to be your wife. I'm wearing green for the Jets. And I hope to live my life in your honor and let your light shine through me.
Rowan, I come across a lot of strong people in my day. And some of you may not know this about Rowan, but her mom suffers from MS and was unable to come out to the wedding. We did live broadcast it, and Rowan wasn't strong enough to say her vows after she heard her mom, who wrote a letter, and I read it to Rowan on her wedding day, and she just like kind of lost it. So I wound up reading her vows to Jared. So technically, he's kind of married to me. And after I finished saying that, I leaned over to Jared and I said to him, "Don't even think about kissing me." But her dad also passed away a couple of years ago. So you're stuck with me as your dad, whether you like it or not. And I'm really, really proud of you for what you did today. I think we all are. Okay, so we're going to start with Jake. He's the youngest. And yeah, awesome. Proud of you guys too.
I think it's probably fitting I go first, considering Jared liked me more than Andrew and Luke. So growing up as the youngest sibling, you look to your brothers for all sorts of advice. Over the years, I found myself constantly learning new things from Andrew and Luke, and yes, believe it or not, Jared. You grow up idolizing the things they do, the people they are, and the way they make people feel. In a way, your brothers become your heroes, and that's exactly what Jared was to me. Being 12 years younger than Jared definitely added a unique factor to our relationship. As I got older, Jared would always tell me things like, "You are so lucky I blazed this trail for you." He never forgot to mention that he was the one brother that wasn't afraid of dad, and he let me know that I could get away with anything due to what he did before me. He definitely was right. As we all know, Jared definitely lived his life to the fullest. While his life was cut so short, I think any one of us in this room would be lucky to live a life filled with as much laughter, adventure, and love as Jared's. My favorite and funniest memories in life, all I found have one common theme in them, and that's Jared. Whether it was when we drove down to New York and I was his agent as he aspired his singing career and auditioned for The Voice, or he convinced me to trek up to the top of Aspen Mountain. Jared definitely had a way of making every moment you shared together feel like it really was the only thing that mattered. As life goes on, it will be difficult not to have these memories together. However, I know he definitely will still watch over me and make sure to throw in those Jared-like adventures along the way. It's safe to say we all wanted the best for Jared. I think everyone had an idea of really what they wanted Jared to do. We all wanted him to settle down, find a beautiful wife, which I will say he absolutely crushed that part of it, and ultimately be happy. The truth is, I think Jared struggled finding his routine, and his normal definitely wasn't our normal, but I think over the past few weeks, I've grown to really learn that that's okay. And I think what we really forget to realize and forgot to realize all along is what Jared realized all along. At the end of the day, the way you treat people, the way you love your family, and the way you make the most out of life is most important. Jared did all three of these things so well. It didn't matter where you came from, how old you were, or how much money you had. Jared treated everyone like his best friend. That truly is one thing that I loved most about Jared, and I think over the past months it's been evident this was the case for most people, as we still continue to hear stories from friends, strangers, 87-year-old women, 12-year-old children about how much Jared just loved hanging out with them. One thing that got overlooked with Jared, I think, was really how thoughtful he was. While that guy could lose car keys, wallets, or his phone like no other person I'd ever met, Jared was definitely the most intentional person I'd ever met. One story that comes to mind when I think of how thoughtful Jared was actually on my 16th birthday. At the time, Jared lived at home, and as you can imagine, as a newly 16-year-old, I was very curious to see the theatrics Jared was going to pull. But as the day went on, Jared wasn't at the house. I kind of got a little disappointed, as I obviously was excited to share the day with him. And as I started to get ready for bed, of course, I hear the garage door open, and in late walks Jared. And I later found out Jared spent that day handcrafting a homemade birthday card in the driveway with 20 plus cards he had bought that morning. In his mind, that act of ridiculousness was completely worth missing my whole birthday, but that is just exactly who Jared was. When he put his mind to something, he was going to do it, and he was definitely going to do it big. Ironically, the last time I got to see Jared was for his birthday. However, like a normal person, I didn't spend it in the driveway the whole time. In our family, we have a tradition that on your birthday, everyone goes around the table and says something they love about you. I was able to tell him how much I love him and how much our relationship truly meant to me. As each person spoke from the heart, it was clear those words really meant the world to Jared. This was the last time we were able to spend together. Jared was always so proud of his family, and for one last time, Jared got to hear how proud we were of him. There won't be a day that goes by that I won't think about Jared. I'm going to miss his funny voicemails, very over-sexualized selfies that he would post on Facebook, and the way he would tell all of us that he loves us. Family gatherings will never be the same without his comments that never failed to cross the line and make everyone a little uncomfortable. Truthfully, I can't even imagine the crap he'd be saying right now if this was my funeral. Jared, I know you're listening, so there's a couple things I want to say. One, you still owe me a ton of money. 2, this isn't goodbye, it's see you later. And 3, I've been so blessed to be your brother. I'll miss you, and most importantly, our friendship. Thank you for being my big brother and my best friend. Although Jared is not physically here, I know throughout the rest of my life and in the rest of all of yours, he will be a part of it each and every day and make each one of those days a little bit brighter.
Before I just get going, I just want to say how lucky I really am to have the family that I have. There's more specifically mom and dad. In a time where you guys are challenged more than anybody, you guys have led that faith that you talk about. And it's just awesome to see and people notice that. And I just want to say thank you for that. I appreciate that a lot. I'm going to struggle to understand this for a while. There's no doubt about that. It doesn't seem fair, but I also learned that it doesn't really matter what I think. It doesn't have to be. However, I honestly have never taken more comfort in anything in my life than knowing that my brother Jared is in heaven right now. He's free of all his anxiousness, any reservations that he had, and he's just completely pure. This whole thing, I have not, and I'm not questioning it. Am I upset? Am I mad? Am I angry? 100%. But I'm not going to question it, because that's not my place. Believing in God doesn't shield you away from any struggles, any pains, any tragedy. But from what I've learned and listened my whole life, that believing in Him provides you the answers in terms of faith, love, and a sense of comfort. This was done for reasons that remind me daily that the love of God has given me and my family, it's unmatched. Jared's death, although heavy and painful, comes with amazing stories and testaments to who my brother Jared was, stories of compassion, stupidity, and friendship. One thing that no one could ever argue was that Jared, he was epitome of a friend and a fan. Jared saw the beautiful in everybody. He consistently loved without expecting love in return. And he was the most selfless, caring, and passionate person that I know. He valued others and their abilities and what they brought more than his own. And that to me is a sign of a rich and successful man. Jared didn't always answer questions the way he wanted, which was a quality that not many people have. It might not have been the answer you wanted to hear, but it might have been the answer that you needed to hear. Too many people are afraid of the conversation with different values and ideas. Jared wasn't. Jared would listen to your conversation and points, and he wouldn't listen. He wouldn't have an answer. He's not listening to answer. He's listening to learn. I've had some moments driving in my car that I just die laughing at the memories I have of him. Memories of me throwing some random dude across my parents' kitchen because he's got slapped. Memories of throwing Jared into a Christmas tree because he slapped Jake. Just thinking back on some of these moments, it seems like there always was a quick little fight, but even quickly resolved, that always ended up with him sitting on my lap telling me that he loved me. Jared loved us all probably deeper than we can even fathom. He was proud of us, and he made sure that we knew. Finally, each of my brothers have been my best friends throughout my life in different stages of my life. They have all taught me lessons that still play a part of my life now. Andrew taught me lessons of competition and taking care of self, and over the recent years, lessons of family, faith, and hard work. I appreciate that, Andrew. Jake, lessons of friendship, finding a way to get things done, and just being a well-rounded young man. And lastly, Jared. Jared taught me lessons of what it actually means to love unconditionally, to care without reservation, and to fully be invested in what you can do for others. Jared, without knowing, has made me a better man, partner, brother, coach, and friend. You will be with me forever, man, and I love you so much.
I really should have gone first. We were arguing in the driveway, and I was like, I'm definitely going last. Joke's on you. Low-key, shout out to Kim for making me write some notes down, because I was like, oh, I'm just going to share. It's been really interesting being the only person living in Oregon with this happening. I've gotten the chance to meet just a ton of Jared's friends. And so going down to get rowing at the lake and just the outpouring of love and support for my brother has just been absolutely amazing. I've had people come to our door and they're like, hey, you have no idea who I am, but I just had to come over and just be with Rowan or like drop off food and just let you know that we care about you. And people I've never met. Jared has more friends, I think, than anyone in this room. And it's been wonderful to get to meet some of them through all this. We had a little family service out in Oregon. And we sat around the fire and we all just kind of just like nothing prepared, but we all just wanted to share things about Jared, his life, and that were sticking out with us. I'm a very like introspective person, so like that can come across sometimes as like maybe I'm disengaged or I'm quiet. But there's a ton going on underneath just the surface, and through this, I've just had a ton of time to just think about my brother's life. And I shared this at the fire, but with so many of Jared's friends coming over, just inviting them in the house and just like having drinks in the backyard. And one thing that people kept saying that really stuck with me is just like, they're like, how different are Andrew and Jared? And people would just like think it was funny, just come over and they're like, I don't know, Nadia's such like a wonderful host and just like having everyone over. But people kept saying that, like, hey, dude, you and your brother are so different. And, we laughed about it, but there's something about that statement that I've been thinking a ton about. Because when I think about my brother and I think about his life, and I think about what mattered most to him and what he was known for, you can hear it with my brother shared. Jared loves his family. And he loves his friends. And I think the most treasured thing to him were the relationships that he had. And when I think about my life and the impact he had on me, I want to be known for those things as well. I want to love the way he loved. And I want to put people first. I'm pretty sure Jared last year invited a homeless person that just got out of prison over for Christmas that literally no one knew. And Jared was just like, hey, they got nowhere to go. Can they come over? Or Jared just buying a plane ticket because someone was having a hard time in Minnesota and would literally just fly out just to be there. And these people have been reaching out to me through Facebook and just sharing hey, you don't know me, but your brother met me in this really dark place when no one else was there. And I just think that's so beautiful. And times where you think came across as irresponsible and just dude, what are you doing? But he just would drop everything and you would go be there for people. And learning those things about him now, it's just I didn't know those things. He would frustrate me so bad. But the more I'm learning about him in his passing and what he meant to other people is something that it is going to impact the way that I live the rest of my life. I was trying to think of some funny stories that I could share, but most of them I couldn't because we're in a church. So I'll have to wait till we get the coquito going later. But I was thinking about my brother and the different roles he played. So, I know him as a brother, but the things that I'm going to take with me over the rest of my life, just reflecting on who he was as a friend. When you talk about friends and you think about my brother, I don't think you could have a better friend. He was loving, he was loyal. And I think the thing I really learned from him is that every single person has value. And I think the way that my brother would reach out to different people of all walks of life, he loved the way that I think Jesus wants us to love people. He never wrote anyone off. He got burned by people. And then he would, 2 years later, they'd be best friends again. He's like, oh man, he didn't mean it. He was just in a bad spot. But just inviting them back into his life, it was just this continual, being there for people that he was a wonderful friend. As an uncle, my sons loved Jared. Jared would show up to their baseball games with this freaking horn, and they'd be up to bat, and he'd play he'd just blow this huge horn, and the kids would go crazy. And so Jared was just he would literally get the crowd just fired up at these little league games, or he'd hear me just screaming at the boys, and he'd come in the dugout, and he would just be like, you guys don't have to listen to Andrew, okay? He's just losing it. I was like, you gotta get out of this dugout, dude. But they loved him so much, and for Nadia too. And Nadia and Jared had a really special relationship. My family misses Jared. He's such a wonderful uncle. As a husband, he cherished Rowan, and he loved her so much. It's been interesting through quarantine, Jared and Rowan got to come over more because like schedules were, we were just at home, and so they'd come over and Jared would bring over just like ice cream and the boys would watch movies. And you could just tell how much Jared just loved Rowan and getting to see the two of them together, and just how he'd make her laugh, and he loved you so much. And I think he built just a really fun life for the two of you. It's just some really wonderful memories that I think you'll continue to have. I think of my brother as a son to my mom and dad. And I just want him to know, because I'm sure he's listening, you pissed mom and dad off so much. But there's no doubt that you made them super proud. And as a brother to me, you were so proud of me. You were never jealous. You were always so happy for me. One of the nights Jared and Rowan came over, him and I went in the backyard, and I was just like, I was making dinner and we were just hanging out, like, and he just looked at me and I was like, what? And he's like, dude, you've built the most beautiful life for yourself. I'm like, I love you, man. Like, this is so great. I never had to question how much he loved me. So moving forward, I'm going to choose to believe God when he says he will work out all things for good for those who love him, because I know he's good. You know, the comment about me and my brother, we may be different, but as I reflect on his life, I want to be known for the things he's being remembered for today.
Jared was so many things to so many people. He was a radiator of energy, an absurdly enthusiastic cheerleader, as Andrew just mentioned, a musician, a creator, a dreamer, a deep thinker, a fearless adventurer, and so much more. We all know he was a son, a brother, a husband, a grandson, a nephew, an uncle, a very loyal friend, a hilarious acquaintance, and to some of us, a cousin. When I describe my cousins, I usually feel the need to explain that they feel more like brothers. And I know all of us cousins share that. Without Jared here physically, we are feeling like a piece is missing, but not just any piece. A loyal, loving, and very colorful piece. The empty space is now filled with memories that make us cry, laugh, shake our heads, and everything in between. Cousin Sean said to me earlier today, Jared loved me in a way I cannot explain. He took me on so many adventures. He took me out of my bubble. I just loved him so much. The way he cared about me, you just don't find that in anyone else. And it is true. Jared is kind of hard to explain. There is nobody else like him, but at the same time, he was exactly what so many people needed. He wanted the best for everyone and was always the first one to cheer many of us in our successes and the first one to pick us up in our failures. His ability to laugh and joke never diminished his ability to love and support. As his cousins, I think we can lead by his example and treat everyone as a potential friend. Greet them with kindness and an open heart, while remembering to sprinkle in some of that absurd Jared enthusiasm. It's impossible to imagine our family without him, but it is a humbling reminder that life on this earth is sometimes short, but precious. So may our hearts and sense of adventure like his know no bounds. And as he would say to all of us, love you.
Rowan had the foresight of contacting a number of Jared's friends. And she gave them an assignment to record some thoughts about Jared and then to send it. And through some really good work of Joe, he put those little testimonies together. And so we'd like to hear from some of Jared's friends.
Hey everybody, I'm Ashley Caraway. I'm Jared's former roommate from Minneapolis. I have tons of stories about Jared, most of which probably can't be told right now, but one thing I can say for certain is he was one of the best friends I've ever had. He fit into my family really well. He was there for all of my family during some really trying times. He wrote music for my sister's wedding and prayed with me in our apartment before my dad's funeral. And we saw each other through breakups, losing friends, everything you go through when you're 26, 27 years old. Otherwise, he was a terrible roommate. Bad. Beside being messy, I came home one day and he had left for work and he left a burner on with oil in the pan, his iron on from ironing his shirt, the windows open. It was a disaster. So when going back through my Facebook messages, hoping to find, funny messages of memories, instead I found a ton of messages of me yelling at him for being a bad roommate. There was a period of time where we didn't talk, and I'm really sad about that. Some big things happened in both of our lives, but we had started talking again via social media in about 2018. I learned all about Rowan. I caught up on things with the family. He also more recently had sent me pictures of his quarantine mullet that he was pretty proud of. I don't know how to wrap my head around this, and I don't know how to tell you how sorry I am. Having him in my life for some of the most important years of my life, I understand the size and shape of Jared in your life and the shape he makes in your heart. And I can't imagine what it feels like to have a Jared-shaped hole in your heart. And I am so sorry. I wish I had prepared something funnier, but the truth is I'm really sad because Jared was a bright light and a really good friend and one of the funniest people I had ever met. And though he was an awful roommate, I'm sure he was a fantastic husband. And I can't imagine what a joy it was to grow up with him or to raise him as a child. But I am so sorry, and I'm sending you guys all my love from Minnesota. Take care of each other.
Hello, my name is Skylar, and I'm here to talk about my friend Jared. I met Jared just over 10 years ago now at the McNally Smith College of Music in St. Paul, Minnesota. Jared was the first person I met at school, actually, the first friend that I made. I was in the basement of the administration building getting my ID photo taken on the first or second day that I had moved to town, and Jared was there hanging up a flyer for a group that he was intending to start, which he called the Innovative Performances Initiative. It was basically a variety show, show and tell type thing. And he started talking to me. He's very charming, very approachable, and immediately I was very taken with him. And so I said, sure, I'll show up to your group, no problem. I showed up to the group later that week, and it was just Jared and his two friends, Ryan and Charlie. And then we didn't really do much with the intention of the group. We just sort of chatted, and then we left to go hang out at Ryan's house. And then the four of us spent a great deal of time together over the next couple of years. had some very dear times as a group of friends, brought together by Jared. And that was one of Jared's many creative ideas. He was an ideas guy. He always had these big, elaborate ideas or schemes or plans, and sometimes they came to nothing. Sometimes they, changed his life. He moves to Aspen to just ski and work at a restaurant all winter long, and then he meets his lovely wife, Rowan. I got to stay with them a number of times in Aspen, coming to and from California. Jared was a very impulsive person. He had a lot of whimsy to him. He would do a lot of things on a whim. He would oftentimes just show up in Sacramento completely unannounced, just shoot me a text and say, "Hey, want a hug?" And then we would get together. We would hang out. We would grab a bite to eat. We would sit on the back porch, or he would stay the night sometimes on his way to Seattle or San Diego, wherever he was living. And it was always just the most pleasant surprise to see him out of the blue. The last time I saw him was just like this. It was in January of this year. I was having my album release show at a warehouse. There's about 150 people. Had not heard a peep from Jared, and I'm running around setting things up, and I look up, and there he is. And I just exclaimed, I screamed in excitement and delight to see him, and we hugged, and then he was there to see me perform music, which we had done together so many years ago. And he stayed the night with us that night. We got to share in a very special moment there together. I'm eternally grateful that Jared was able to be there for that occasion. And I will always cherish all of the memories that I have of my 10-year-long friendship with such a sweet, gregarious man, a man like no other. So thank you so much, and here's to the memory of Jared Boria.
Hey guys, my name's Matt. I've known Jared for better half of a decade at this point, and I'm just really gonna miss my friend.
I met Jared in September of 2014 at Tomorrowworld. We had a great time bonding over seemingly random stuff, like our love and hate for David Guetta. And when I left Tomorrowworld, I was really bummed to say goodbye to him, but he tracked me down on Facebook right after that, just telling me that I couldn't just let you go. Jared was like that. He had kind of a gravity about him. You could kind of put him in a place and people would just orbit around him. And anyone who really met Jared for even for a second, instantly loved him. And it was because he was just such a genuine person, and he had just an enormous heart. And there really hasn't been a day that's gone by after I heard that he was missing, that I haven't thought about him. I doubt that's going to change anytime soon. But, Jared, I love you, man, and I miss you.
When I think of Jared, I get this happy feeling in my heart, and I think it's because that's the energy that he exuded. He was so full of life, and he had this love of people and yearning for adventure that was infectious. And I think I gained a deeper understanding of what life is about because of him. So thank you for that lesson, Jared. You taught it well. I love you.
Hi everyone, my name is Kelsey. I've known the Boria family for many years now, and Jared and I became very close when he lived in New Hampshire for several years. There's a few things that I'd like to say. Jared was a gift giver, not the kind of gifts you can find on a shelf, the kind that give your life meaning and purpose. I had met Jared several times prior to the first time that we actually hung out. It was Black Friday in 2008, and we were tearing up the J. Crew floor in Kittery, Maine, dancing like no one was watching, and even made some older women laugh. It was then that Jared gave me his first gift, confidence. I've always been an overweight, awkward bookworm who was slowly starting to come out of my shell until I met Jared. He came into my life and he yanked me out. He never cared what people thought of him. He rarely got embarrassed, even though he embarrassed me plenty of times. When Jared moved to New Hampshire, he gave me his second gift, a sense of adventure. He got me out to experience life and all the natural wonder that the outdoors can offer. I'll never forget Peace Island, our little Pawtuckaway sanctuary we shared with Sheena and Sam, our camping nights, and karaoke until we couldn't speak. Total Eclipse of the Heart will always be our karaoke song. The third gift I received from Jared was when he got me back into art. One day, he had spread out about 800 crayons across the Boria's ping pong table and set up a massive poster board which explained the link between music notes and color. Jared, and his own creative mind and his passion for all the things art, re-sparked my own creative energy and inspired me to get back into painting. I've actually been working on one for him. Jared had gifts for anyone lucky enough to have known him and been open to receive them. For the several years he was in New Hampshire, I brought him along many excursions and social gatherings and introduced him into my friend circle. I'm so glad that I did that because I know he made some lasting bonds and relationships, especially with Sheena. When hearing of his passing, I was overwhelmed with texts from people that I had forgotten, even knew Jared. It truly shows how many lives one single person can impact. Luke, I love you dearly. Jared loved to tease you, but that's how he showed love sometimes. I never would have met Jay if it wasn't for you, so I thank you for that. Bruce and Cindy, I don't think I ever thanked you enough for welcoming me into your home as warmly as you did. You didn't know it at the time, but I was going through stuff at home, so having a place to go to get away from it all made me very thankful. Jake, I want to give you a hug so badly. He's always going to be with you. Andrew, we didn't know each other well, but Jared made me feel like I did. Rowan, thank you. Thank you for loving him and all of his little quirks. Thank you for reminding him that true love does exist and giving him all the happiness you both deserve. Jared, I know you are home. I find comfort in believing that you now have all of your questions answered and you are living out all of your dreams and desires just in another place. We're still Power Life buds, and we always will be. I hope my boys grow up to be the amazing, kind soul that you are. Thank you for listening, and thank you to the Boria family for allowing those that love Jay to share their little slice of Jared and say goodbye in our own way. Thank you.
Hello everyone, this is Jared's friend Sheena. First off, I would like to extend all of my love and light to the wonderful Rowan and all of the Borias. Thank you so much for putting this together for all of us to share. Jared's love and selflessness really shine through his character because of all of you. I first met Jared the summer of 2007 through a mutual friend that I worked with at Pawtuckaway State Park in New Hampshire. I knew immediately that we would be great friends. I admired Jared's pure zest for life, and wherever we were always laughing, singing, and having fun. One of his most famous lines being, "Guys, let's just go have the most fun." When Rowan and Jared lived down the street from me here in San Diego, one of our favorite things to do, both being night owls, was to drive around in the car and sing songs as loud as we could. Literally just driving around in circles. There was an extra sparkle in his eyes when he would sing, and I can still hear him playing the piano when I close my eyes. I am very thankful to have his music to listen to today. Jared was the star of any karaoke show. I remember the first time that I ever heard him sing. It was at Holidays Bar and Grill, and him and his boys sang Bye 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 by NSYNC. People flocked from the dining room around the corner to come in and enjoy the show. The pure joy on his face when people would compliment him getting off of stage was priceless. I can see the reactions when we would karaoke in Mexico. They didn't understand the English, but Jared grabbed their attention to smiling and dancing along. Everyone always wants to hear one more song with a voice so beautiful. One of the most impactful things Jared taught me was forgiveness. Forgiveness does not exonerate the perpetrator. Forgiveness liberates the victim and is a gift that you can give to yourself. I really looked up to him for always living in the moment and trying to learn something from every experience. We often called each other to share our newest $1 million idea. I could always tell when it was Jared calling from afar because he would just keep calling until I got the chance to answer and say, "Hey, I'm busy. I will call you back." Sometimes these repeated phone calls were just to tell me something as simple as he spilled something on his favorite shoes, or that he bought one single cheeseburger and one double cheeseburger only to make a triple cheeseburger. I feel honored and blessed to share these few moments with you all, and I hope that we can find some comfort in each other's words and celebrate Jared's wonderful life.
My name is Elijah Page. I'm a good friend of Jared Boria. I can't even believe I have to make this. I met Jared probably, let's say, 13 to 15 years ago. Met him when he was living with Noah at the house on the hill over by OHSU. When I met Jared, I don't think I've ever met anybody as vivacious and as alive as he was. Definitely ran at a higher octane than most people. I guess that's what made him special. Last couple of months before Jared died, we communicated via text with everything that's been going on with Black Lives Matter and police, and Jared was the type of guy to bridge that gap. And doing what I do, he always check up on me and make sure that I was good to go. We shared a lot of positive texts. I got to tell him that I loved him, and he told me that he loved me and he appreciated what I did. I'm gonna miss him. I don't think I'll ever meet anybody like Jared and as adventurous and as electric as Jared. Jared's a special guy, and I miss him every day. And I can only hope to live my life as free as Jared did, and have as much adventure in my life as Jared did. I love you, Jared.
So I'm Amy, and I was lucky enough to meet Jared on Thanksgiving Day 2014, and Rowan and I were living in our apartment in Snowmass near Aspen with two other friends. We'd had loads of people around for Thanksgiving, and we were all just laughing so much, and it was such a fun time. And this guy just walked in and sat down on the sofa as confident as ever, and I was like, "Hi, who are you?" And he said, "Oh, I'm Jared. I live across the hall from you guys, and you just sounded like you were having such a fun time, and I wanted to come and hang out with you." And that's how Rowan and Andrea and I became friends with Jared, and I think one of my favourite stories that I like to think about was a time when Rowan, Jared and I were skiing, as we often did, on Aspen Mountain, and Jared was taking us on some really advanced parts of the mountain and was teaching me different techniques, and was always so patient and really believed in me, and was always just trying to really help me improve. And without telling us, he took us down this double black diamond, and when I saw he was taking us down there, I was like, Jared, I can't do that. And he was like, yes, you can. He's such a cheerleader, and took us down, and I fell a few times, but he would wait and help me, and was so happy afterwards, because I never thought I'd be able to ski down a double black diamond, and so I never would have done that if it weren't for him. And I think that brings me on to just some of the reasons that I love Jared so much. That he just had so much confidence in you, and just thought you could do anything, and would just always tell you, I love you, you're awesome, and just thought you were such a great person, and I just am so grateful for that. And just loved how great he was for my best friend, and how great Rowan was for him, and from being close with her, how much time I got to spend with him, and how well I got to know him, and just how unique he was, but so easy to understand, and how great we were at doing our rendition of A Whole New World from Aladdin, and just being one of the most unique people in my life, and so loving.
Hi everyone, my name is Terry Houchin, and I live in San Diego, California. When I think about Jared, I think about his amazing, charismatic, and captivating personality. I think everyone that knew Jared knows what a great people person he was. He was able to turn anyone into his friend immediately, wherever he went. One story I want to share with you about him that is a great memory for me is one night I was out at happy hour with a few girlfriends, and Jared lived close by. And I sent him a message and asked him if he could come in and stop by and go do something with me afterwards. So he walked in, and the girls, I said, my friend's coming, over here, my guy friend. And he walked in, and their eyes lit up. They were like deer in the headlights staring at him. And he sat down and said, hey, how you girls doing? And asked them how they were and where they lived. And, he'd always ask about people and want to get to know them. And it was funny watching them look at him. And so we left, and for a couple months they say, oh, how's your friend doing? Because he was just so friendly. And I just thought it was funny, because I used to tease Jared and tell him, part of the reason why you get away with so much of the crazy stuff that you do is because how handsome you are. And he'd say, yeah, I know. And I just thought that was so funny about him. I want to send all of Jared's family my condolences, and his friends, and Rowan. And I hope that all of you just keep thinking the good thoughts and the fun thoughts. And I hope that will get all of us through this. Thank you all, and stay blessed.
No, actually, the reaction was first time I met, because we were worried, right? We was all in the camp, and just all of a sudden, the next morning we woke up, and there was a tent with no tent poles, just a body wrapped inside, and we're like, is he okay? Because it's hot in Atlanta, you know what I mean? So we opened it up, and he's like a goddamn vampire. He's like, the sun, it's warm. He's like, it's really nice and cool in here. He called it a tent taco. So it turns out his friend said, yeah, No, come to Atlanta. I'll take care of everything for you. Come in tent with no bloody poles.
And then like people were sleeping and wanting him to shut up.
Like go to sleep.
He does not go to sleep.
No.
Ever. That man just has so much energy, like constantly just like.
I remember the first time I heard him sing this when we all went out to visit him in Aspen. And what was her name? Broke her ankle.
Oh, Jen Novielli.
Yeah. She broke her ankle, so he was carrying her around for like the whole weekend. And we were walking through the car parks, and he had her on his back, and he just started going, "Mats Benyan." Who the hell is singing this right now? Wow. This
It
guy's
was like
got
this
the.
New Year's when we were coming home and Sarah Barry was not the friendliest, and he decided that he was like, I'm gonna make this girl my best friend. And literally the next morning, they're just chumming it up like no other, and I'm like, how? How do you do this? You turn somebody that absolutely hated you into your best friend in like 5 hours.
That's what he does though. Like even if you're annoyed by him, it's just this incessant happiness and pure soul. There's no wall he can't break down. He just couldn't. He's like, I'm just gonna keep loving you until you feel it.
You will love me because I love you so much.
Yeah.
He's just up there. He's up there looking at us, being like, guys, this next trip is so entertaining. Wait till you come here.
Telling stories to God and Jesus. Let me tell you this one time. And they're just laughing their ass off.
Time out. I need a break. Just give me a second.
Drove with him all the way to Vegas. End up raging. God bless her. Rowan got sick, so we had to leave her at the hotel. They went to this nightclub, the Marquee or whatever. They were drinking, having a great time all night. And then we leave the club. It must have been like 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning, okay? And obviously that's this time zone. And his mom was all the way on the East Coast. What's the first thing he does when he comes out of this club? I want to call my mom. It's like, who goes out of a nightclub in Sin City? It's like, yeah, I'm definitely calling my mom.
Yeah, Mom. I'm calling Mom right now.
Oh.
I was in the car with him when his mom called once, and it was just so.
Cindy.
It was amazing, just like listening to him talk to his mom. I'm like, this is not the kind of conversation I have with mine. It was just unbelievable. They were just like best friends. It was crazy. Envious.
Yeah. To Jared.
Good morning, Boria family. My name is James Bradley. I decided to record this video from the Red Rock National Park, just outside of Las Vegas, for obvious reasons. We all know our guy thrived in nature. I miss him. I miss him a lot. When Rowan asked me to do this video, I dragged my feet quite a bit because, well, it's hard. But more so, how do I tell a story about somebody who's affected my life in so many positive ways? Somebody who I still feel like I can pick up the phone and call right now. But I didn't think there was any one story that would encapsulate our friendship and the love I had for that man. I still have for him. So I figured I'd just work down a list of some of my favorite memories of Jared, and for all of you who know him, I'm sure some of these are going to sound just like Jared. For any of you who've gone drinking with Jared, you obviously know how much he loves karaoke. And I'd have to say some of my favorite memories are of him wailing into some Whitney Houston songs after a few beers. I remember running out of gas with him in the middle of winter and having to push my car everywhere. I remember enjoying a big old snowstorm when he and I lived together and we decided to jump out of a third-story window into a giant snow pile. Ashley Caraway knows that one. I remember surprising him with a trip to a big music festival that he told me he couldn't afford. That's a good memory. Hundreds of thousands of people in the middle of Podunk town just outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I had to go find him in this crowd of hundreds of thousands of people. And I'll never forget it. I saw him standing underneath this big inflatable rainbow bridge, looking around pretty clueless with his hat cocked off to the side, just taking it all in. Oh, it was a good time. I remember eating his pint of ice cream late at night after he went to bed, and then being woken up the next morning with his way of putting together both humor and annoyance. I remember when I met Cindy for the first time, and I got to see how much he loved his parents when we all went out to eat at the Black Bear Diner. One of my favorite memories is spending all day at the Minneapolis Sculpture Garden with both him and my girlfriend at the time. I remember being on a cross-country road trip with him from Atlanta to Minneapolis, and all the good memories that come from a road trip. I remember that the day that he and his bandmates came up with their band name. I remember late night jam sessions with the band, Sex Race. I'll give you one guess as far as who came up with that name. I remember when he and I were living together and he came home after he'd get mugged and helping him clean up his cuts. I remember surprising him in Breckenridge while I was on a road trip. I remember him surprising me in Vegas here while he was tagging along on one of Rowan's girls' trips. And I remember how deeply he felt the loss of his friend Ryan. And I'm thinking about that a lot lately, actually. I still feel like I could just pick up the phone and call him like he would do randomly, just give me a call out of the blue. It's one thing that Jared's going to be missed for is every single person he touched in their lives. He made them feel special, let them know how much he loved them. I'm gonna miss him, guys. I know you are too. The brightest lights always go out the fastest, don't they? Thank you for that wonderful gift you gave the world called Jared. That's it. That's all I got. Thank you.
You raise your kids, right? And you have all these dreams and aspirations, and you see things in them, and you want to fan that into flame. Jared was like a tapestry. There were a lot of different colors to him. Some of them made me want to beat the crap out of him. And some of them, I remember I would just sometimes, like after a conversation that went much deeper than I thought it would ever go, and just seeing his transparency and his wit and he was just really bright. And I would, because I like to stay up late, we'd sit down and we'd have these long conversations. And that was another side of him, and I just thought, he's just awesome. I tried, and Sin, we all did, to instill in him a love for God and a love for people. And listening to all these testimonies and hearing his brothers and Laura for her cousins, I think he got it. That one area of his life, that sometimes you could see his love for people, his love for life, his just effervescence about him. Like sometimes I would want to say, hey, Jared, man, I love all that stuff about you, dude, but can we get on with just like some regular living? And he goes, Dad, I know. That's probably about the only thing that when I think back on Jared's life that just gave me a little pause. It's just that, and it wasn't so much because I wanted him to be this huge success or something. It's just that, one, I just saw such great potential in him. He could have done whatever he really wanted to do. I just wanted him to enjoy his life and not have to worry about things, not knowing that his life would be over at 37. But outside of that kind of career path thing, there was never a disappointment. I know that the furthest thing from Jared's mind would be to disappoint me. And I know that he loved his mom. He would call, like, seriously, all the time. He was like, just like a little girl. He would call me at like 4 o'clock in the morning, our time, and show me a video of him skiing down the mountain at that time. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, because they just got fresh powder, and he wanted me to see this trail he just carved down this mountain. And I'd say, Jared, you just called me. It's like 4 o'clock in the morning. He goes, yeah, I know, Dad, but you go back to sleep, but come on, how often are you going to see that? And I say, Jared, call me at 4 o'clock again, and there's going to be blood on that path, all right? And then I'd hang up the phone, and I just like crack up, because I think, what kid is calling his father to just show him his like snow tracks on the side of a mountain? So when I have my moments, those are the things that I think about. But there's just one more thing that I want to share with you before we go, and I don't want to prolong everybody's time, but it's the most important thing in my entire life. Every single one of you who are sitting here today, you have 4 questions that you have to answer in your life. Whether we realize it or not, you are answering the questions. And they have to deal with origin. Like, who am I? Why am I here? They have to deal with meaning. They have to deal with morality. And they have to deal with destiny. What's going to happen after I'm dead? How you answer those questions, they ought to be a consistency that pervades all of them. Well, we could think we just got here by chance, but then why impose any real kind of morality or standard on people? Why even bother telling everyone that you ought to treat people like you treat yourself? Love one another deeply from the heart. Like, if it's all just like chance, it's all up in the air, then everybody just do your own thing. Get yours before anybody else. And people live like that. But I could tell you how I answer those questions of origin, meaning, morality, and destiny. They're wrapped up in a person named Jesus. And Jesus has given us a picture of the world around us. I remember one time reading this essay from C.S. Lewis, brilliant mind from Oxford, was teaching there for many years. He became a Christian late in his life. One of his more famous essays he wrote was, you guys might know, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, the Narnia Tales. That was C.S. Lewis. But he also wrote a book called Mere Christianity, that he talked about how, from the heights of his academic career, how he came to see Jesus as the one who fulfilled all of those questions that we are asking. And he says, when you read the stories of Jesus, he says, he's either a liar or he's a lunatic. Because who would believe the things that he's saying? Or he's Lord. There's just one story I'm going to end with you. Jesus had begun his ministry, and was out there teaching with all kinds of stories, parables. You might hear some of these verses in your head, but one of those was Jesus was saying that he's the good shepherd and that he's the gate that opens, and he says, and all are welcomed in. And after giving this whole description, there's a story of the raising of Lazarus. And there's just a couple of things I want you to hear about this story. Mary and Martha were sisters to Lazarus. They had been a part of Jesus' life and his ministry, and so their brother gets sick. And they send word to Jesus, and it says that the one that you love is sick, and they were basically asking Jesus to come and do something. And you know what he did? He looked at his disciples and he said, this sickness will not end in death. But, he says, it is for the glory of God that the Son of God may be glorified. And then he stayed where he was for 3 more days. At which point then he looked at his disciples, and he says, come, we got to go. He says, Lazarus has fallen asleep. And the disciples looked at him and said, well, if he's sleeping, maybe he'll get better. And Jesus looked at him and he says, no, let me tell you plainly, Lazarus has died. And we must go that we might wake him up. When I think of that story, I think, okay, I'm trying to get my head around this. Jesus loves Lazarus, as you're going to see, right? But he stays where he is 4 more days until Lazarus dies. So whatever picture you have of God, whatever picture you have of Jesus, Jesus didn't have to be physically present to heal him, because there's numerous stories in the scriptures where Jesus spoke a word and it came to be. So there's this sense of God fulfilling out purpose, and that God also has this sense of plan that works in space and time, so that it required Lazarus to pass away and for them to spend these extra 4 days. That's not just a philosophical thought on my part, because I thought about that when my son was in Diamond Lake for over a week. And I'm like, oh God, man, why? Why can't you just find them? During those days, I got on this little podcast thing that I was doing on Facebook Live called Seize the Day. And I had an opportunity to talk about my faith. And I think at one point there was over 40,000 people who were watching this thing. And in hindsight, I thought maybe the only reason that they didn't find Jair's body sooner was because I had an opportunity to go out and talk to people about Jesus. That's the truth. So in his plan, it gets jacked up. And you heard it in Luke's voice. I tried to raise men who could think clearly and not have to look at life with rose-colored glasses on, because there's a lot of brokenness in this world. Jesus goes into town now to travel to Mary and Martha's home. When they find that Jesus is on his way, they come running out, and Martha runs out, and the first thing that she says to Jesus when she sees him is, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. Have you ever been tempted sometimes in your life to think like God's taking a nap? Or why do I even have to believe any of this stuff? It's just not happening. And we think that somehow or another God is limited. And Jesus said to Martha, Martha, your brother will rise again. And her comment was one of faith. She says, oh, I know he'll live again in the resurrection day. But Jesus says that, he looks at her, he says, I am the resurrection and the life. He who were dead, believing in me, yet shall he live. Nice words. But Lazarus is in the tomb. Everybody saw him die. Jesus walks to the house now, and Mary comes out, the sister, and she says the exact same thing. If you had been here, my brother would not have died. So he asked them where they had laid Jesus. And so they bring him to that tomb. And there's the shortest verse in the entire Bible. It says, Jesus wept. Shortest verse in the New Testament. Really, in the whole Bible. It says that he looked around at Mary and Martha and all those who were grieving. And then it says, Jesus wept. Why would Jesus weep? No, I'm serious. I want you to think about this for a moment. It cannot possibly be because Lazarus is dead. Because he could have done something about that 4 days ago. When he first heard that Lazarus was sick, why didn't he go then? Why didn't he do it? Instead, what he said, no, this is for God's glory and so that the Son of God would be glorified by it. There was going to be something that was going to come out of this event that was going to demonstrate something of the glory and goodness that was empowering this Jesus. So he wasn't crying because Lazarus was dead. Maybe he was crying because how sad everyone was. Well, here's another truth. They're all sad because Lazarus died. Jesus could have prevented that. So all of that sorrow, all of that sadness, all of that grief that people are going through could have easily been prevented. But he didn't do that. And how that lands the plane in my life, because if we're going to talk about origin and meaning and morality and destiny, there has to be a cohesiveness that goes through all of that. It can't be something that is disjointed. There has to be a logical sense of what's going on. And in the picture that God gives us in the Bible is a picture that says, I know the end from the beginning. I created this world, and so I give you a sense of purpose and meaning and identity. And I'm telling you that you are to live your life where you love me with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and you learn to love your neighbor as yourself. Because if you do that, you demonstrate more and more of who I am. Instead of a recklessness sometimes that you see in a world where it's so self-centered and everybody's just doing their own thing. It's about me. It's about mine. You know why I think Jesus wept? It's because he stood amongst a whole group of people. And they really didn't fathom that he really was the resurrection and the life. The one who had come to bear our burdens, to bring a sense of redemption, a sense of wholeness in a person's life. Because he knew that you bear this divine image. You were created in the image of God. That's how it starts off. And nobody saw that. Until he told them to roll away the stone. And all these religious people, they said, Lord, you don't want to do that because he's been in there now 3 days. He certainly stinks. And he rolled away the stone. And the record says that he called Lazarus out. And that Lazarus lived for many years. And you could read in the Gospels how Lazarus traveled around. He had this reputation. He was the one that Jesus raised from the dead. And so I want to hold those kinds of things deep in my heart, because what it does is it blesses you with a sense of who you are. You were created in the image of God. And the meaning that that brings is that I have an opportunity then to engage the world around me and demonstrate something of this fullness that is in him, because the world's broken, right? There's still a lot of death in the world. There's still a lot of pain. But he's calling us, saying, everything is not quite done yet. But in the meantime, let your light shine, that they may see your good work and glorify your Father who's in heaven. And that's why you become the best person you can be, because one day, each and every one of us, we're going to wind up in a box. And you're going to have to give an answer for this life that you've lived to the one who created that life. And he's going to have you give an answer about, what did you do with my son who died for your sin? And if you answer that correctly, it has everything to do with your destiny. Because he is the resurrection and the life. And as I sit in a chair, or I sat in the wee hours of a morning after Rowan called me, my heart's breaking, and I think, okay, God decided that 37 years was enough for him. And he took him home. But because Jesus is the resurrection and the life, I know I will see him again. And I want all of you to have that same sense of confidence. And it's not just because it's my words, but it's part of a record that spans over 1,600 years. There's no other piece of literature in all the world. Doesn't prove necessarily that it's the Word of God, but I'm just telling you, the transmission, historically, archaeologically, there is no other piece of literature like the Old Testament or New Testament books. None. And the record of that books is that the God who made you is one day that very God to whom you will stand before and give an account for your life. Some people say, well, it's primitive. Okay, here's a whole record of generation after generation after generation of people who took that word of God seriously, and it changed their life. And it gave them a hope for the future. My son's not in that box. The Bible says that my son is transformed. That which is temporal has become eternal. That which was corrupted is now incorruptible. And we have treasure in heaven. I put my head on that pillow. I am not afraid. And I grieve because of those earthly ties. But I can sit here and I'm proud of the fact that so many people can say that Jared loved them. And the words that I got, you even heard it when they were sitting around that circle. Jared would share Jesus with people in the most strangest places. He would call me and just say, Dad, quick, I got 2 seconds. And the music would be blasting in the background. I'm like, dude, where are you? He goes, no, don't worry about it. Just that verse. Where's this verse found? I'm like, all right, Jared. So take that to heart. Come up with a really good answer of why you're here and the meaning that that brings. and the morality that ensues and the sense of destiny. Because that's the gospel story. And it comes out really well for those who embrace Jesus. I'm going to end with just a little picture testimony of Jared, with some of the songs that he liked, and then we'll go home and we'll have some really good food.
Come fly with me, let's fly away. If you can use some exotic booze, there's a bar in far Bombay. Come on and fly with me, let's fly away. Come fly with me, let's float down to Peru. In Llama Land, there's a one-man band, and he'll toot his flute.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, heroes in a half shell, turtle power.
For you, come on, fly with me, let's take off in the blue. Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so near. You may hear all the angels cheer because we're together. Weather-wise, it's such a lovely day. Just say the words and we'll beat the birds down to Acapulco Bay. It is perfect for a flying honeymoon. They say, come fly with me, let's fly away.
Mama, you know I love you. Ooh, you know I love you, Mama. Mama, you're the queen of my heart. Your love is like tears from the stars. Yes, it is. Mama, I just want you to know. Like food to my soul. Yes it is, yes it is. Oh, yes it is, yes it is, yes it is. Oh, you're always down for me, have always been around for me, even when I was bad. You've shown me right from my wrongs. Yes you did. And you took up for me when everyone was down on me. You always did understand. You gave me strength to go on.
Once I get you up there, where the air is rarefied, we'll just glide starry-eyed. Once I get you up there, I'll be holding you so very near. You might even hear a whole gang of cheers just because we're together. Weather-wise, it's such a cuckoo day. You just say those words and we'll take our birds down to Acapulco Bay. It's so perfect for a flying honeymoon. Oh, babe, come fly with me. Let's fly, let's fly. Pack up, let's fly away. Pack a small bag